Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Boink Studios, and check us out on boinkstudios.com, where you can see all of our projects, past, present, and future. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and you are listening to Tom Clark's Main Event. This is episode number 82 of the podcast, and if you're joining us today for the very first time, we will bid you welcome. If you're coming back for a repeat visit, we say, hey, thanks for checking back in with us. And to all those involved, we extend to you, as always, the customary laurel and a hearty handshake. Thanks for listening. Thanks for reading. Thanks for supporting. And hey, thanks for always being there, Doc. Is my intro a bit too rehearsed? It occurred to me just now. Maybe my intro is a bit too rehearsed. I usually get it in one take, just for anyone out there wondering. Sometimes I get a little tongue-tied and I have to redo it. And there's some deleted outtakes. Well, they're gone now. You can't hear them. But it would be like me doing my usual, hey, welcome to the show, right? And then I was followed by a, damn it! Like really loud, you know. I don't usually curse on the show. My apologies for that. But so, what's up, folks? Thanks for coming back. Glad you are with us. This is Tom Clark's Main Event. I'm the aforementioned Tom Clark, and I tend to babble at the beginning of every show. So if this is your first time here, well, there it is. I tend to run my mouth quite a bit. But you know, if you don't run your mouth, you got no business really hosting a podcast, right? So if you're not comfortable talking someone's ear off, then what are you doing this for? So it's been about a month since we last hung out. I was doing an episode about every week or so. But you know what? As I always like to say, when it comes to the podcasting game, life beckons, right? You get busy with everyday life. Things sort of happen and come up, and maybe sometimes they get in the way, or they are in addition to what you're doing. So, yeah, life beckons, man. So that's where I'm at right now. And plus, you know, we're in the month of November, so 'tis the season. Someone's Christmas tree went up on November 1st, and that's right, fools, it's me. Suck it, Grinches. I don't even care. I do the same thing every year. I'm going to continue to do the same thing every year until I'm too old to get up out of the chair and put the tree up. So I don't even care, man. I like to enjoy the Christmas season, my favorite time of year. We're going to try to do a Christmas show this year. As we are on the Tom Clark's 30-Minute Fun Show, we're going to try to do a Christmas episode there. We were this close to getting a brand new, fresh out the box episode of the Comedy Action Hour recorded, but plans went awry. So that's still a work in progress. Send your hate mail to Kyle Smith at boinkstudios.com. So boinkstudios.yahoo.com. Just, you know, I'll force him to read them. Or I'll call him and wake him up at 3 in the morning and read them to him. So I blame Kyle. It really is all his fault. Don't tell him I said that. I don't care if you tell him I said that. It doesn't matter to me either way. He knows what he did. He knows. Okay? He knows who the guilty party is. So without any further ado, let us go ahead and proceed to the show, shall we? This time the main event is Raw versus SmackDown. Now, I know what you're saying. Tom, is this a video game review? Not at all. Although I will tell you that I did pick up WWE 2K18 the day it was released, and me and the boy have been playing it. And you know, most of the chief complaints online has been that it's glitchy. Oh, it's glitching. There's some stuff happening. It's not so much that I would lose a lot of sleep over it, but it's stuff I've noticed. Like at any given time during any given match, the wrong name will be above the wrong head. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that's small stuff, so I don't really care. It's nothing that's ruining my day. It's a fun game. The roster is huge. It takes you a long time to cycle through there to pick somebody. Like, what am I complaining about, right? Jeez, Tom. It's like the biggest roster in the history of WWE video games, and here I am complaining about it. What are you going to do, right? But it's a fun game. I mean, we buy every one of them in my house, and, you know, my shelf is full of when it was Raw versus SmackDown versus Raw, I guess. And, instead of just one guy on the cover, it was multiple superstars on the cover. And now it's like Madden, where it's like, let's reveal who's on the cover this year, guys. Okay, whatever, man. Okay, it's cool. But it's a fun game. And if you've not picked it up, I highly suggest you pick it up. It's worth picking up. But no, this episode will not be a review of those games. What this is, you know what's coming up, right? In fact, we're 9 days away, November 19th. And it is the Survivor Series. That's right, folks. It's going to be Team Raw versus Team SmackDown Live. And you guys know what's going on there. The seeds for this thing were sown several weeks ago. And it's enough to make me want to talk about it, because there's been a lot of stuff happen the past few weeks that have really, well, they frustrated me, if I can be honest. A lot of things that I think were good moves by the company, and other things where I'm sort of, it's a head scratcher. It's a head scratcher. So I'm sitting there thinking, what in the world is going on now? This all began when SmackDown Live decided to invade Monday Night Raw. And, I mean, that's not where it began. It's where it began for fans on TV anyway. There was a little battling on Twitter between Shane and Kurt Angle, I believe, at the time, respectively. But nothing like what we thought we would see coming from the babyface general manager of SmackDown and the commissioner of SmackDown. Now, I will say this, is that Daniel Bryan has not really been a party to this. Now, like Shane, Daniel is a babyface, right? But, Daniel was sort of kept out of this. I guess they wanted to protect his babyface character. I guess protecting Shane's babyface character wasn't really a big concern for anybody. But, what was shocking to me, if I'm being honest, what was shocking to me when the SmackDown invasion of Raw took place was the complete and utter shock of it all. Not the fact that they showed up, but the fact that at the front of the group was the New Day, who flat out attacked Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews. Sort of, in cold blood, I guess, if you will. No self-defense happening there, just a vicious attack led by baby faces who sell merch, who make the kids laugh, who are fun and entertaining to watch. See, this is my problem. And I know a lot of people have been complaining about this, and I'm just another voice among many. I get that too. But my issue here is real simple. And in my opinion, baby faces should act like baby faces. Pardon my creaking chair, by the way. I always have to apologize for my chair. I need to start a GoFundMe page to buy a new chair for me for the office. What are you going to do? But baby faces should act like baby faces. Heels should act like heels. And that's it, and that's all. Good night. Click. Hit the stop button. That's it. And when you have baby faces acting like heels, it screws up the entire dynamic. Just like when you have heels acting like baby faces. You had heels like Baron Corbin and Rusev, who sort of were following Shane, not sort of, they were following Shane McMahon's directions in terms of attacking other superstars. And I'm like, since when does Baron Corbin care what Shane McMahon thinks or wants to do what Shane McMahon tells him to do? That kind of stuff gets on my nerves. Well, they got a pay-per-view to sell. They got a network to sell. I get that. I understand it. I'm not an idiot here, folks. Believe me when I say that. Not about this anyway. But, I understand what the point is. I get it. But again, to me, it throws everything into a tailspin. I've not moved past the invasion yet. I don't know that I'm going to be able to be quite honest with you. I think it was just too much. And I think that fans, because they're used to watching so much crap come out of that company, that they just sort of take it and roll over and play dead and move on to the next angle. But the fact is, I can't move on from that. It's been really tough. But it has set up Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, the traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match. I don't know if this is going to be the main event. You would think that the champion versus champion match would be the main event. I don't know. But this reads as a who's who of both companies with maybe one exception. On one side, you got Team Raw, which is Kurt Angle, Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and Jason Jordan. Kurt Angle's storyline son, Jason Jordan. A lot of people are picking Jordan as the traitor, much in the same way that Kurt Angle betrayed the Alliance back in the day. Remember that storyline that we all try to forget? Well, it's back. It's back. It's just being called something else now, man. But yeah, so Jordan might end up being, the plant. He might end up betraying Raw. I don't know. But on the other side of the ring, you got Team SmackDown Live, which is Shane McMahon, Bobby Roode, of all things, of all people, which I love Bobby, don't get me wrong, but I don't know how great of a fit he is here. I guess there's history between him and other guys on Team Raw. I get that, especially with him and Kurt, that they're not going to talk about because that happened in TNA, obviously. But it's Shane, Bobby Roode, Randy Orton, Shinsuke Nakamura, most poorly booked superstar of 2016 and 17, in my humble opinion. That's how I feel. And John Cena, welcome back John Cena, again, to the fold. So Team SmackDown versus Team Raw. So, yeah, I don't know. If you had to pick a traitor among the ranks, I don't think you'd ever need to turn your back on Randy Orton. Randy Orton's the snake. Remember, he's a viper. Hello. And don't go to sleep on Randy Orton. I think he could be a surprise traitor. If there has to be a traitor in this match, I would probably make it Randy Orton. He would make the most sense. But you got Kurt Angle back in the ring again. Kurt recently joining forces with the Shield, my God in heaven, which we covered that. We covered the return of the Shield in episode 81. But, yeah, I don't know. It's like, I'm speechless right now because it's a mess. Plus, I'm trying to think back about episode number 81 if Roman had went down by then. I don't think that he did, honestly. But I have covered this on BleacherReport.com, by the way. If you care to go check out my page, please do so, because I've covered Kurt Angle's alliance with the Shield at TLC. And, that's a whole other subject right there to begin with. But it's kind of a mess. And if you want to read, by the way, predicting Kurt Angle will wrestle again before WrestleMania 34. And this covers his return to TLC along with the Shield. And, I say the Shield, but it's Rollins and Ambrose. So it's not quite the same thing. But that column is there, folks, if you'd like to go check it out. Like I said, BleacherReport.com on October 28, 2017. I liked it. It was fun to write. So go read it and stuff. Give me a click, man. I'm all about them clicks. I don't know where that came from. But I don't know how I feel about it. I got a lot of respect for Angle, as you do, as everyone does, because he deserves it, because he's earned it, because he's a Hall of Famer, because he's former world champion, one of the best in the business, one of the best the game's ever seen, by far. You have to say that, right? But I don't know how I feel about him being back in the ring again. I hope it's not as awkward this time as it was during TLC. It seemed like he was kind of waiting for things to happen. I think this time out, Kurt will be more warmed up. He will be ready, and he'll be in there and be able to get the chance to go one-on-one with other guys. Instead of it being a 3-on-4, 3-on-5, 3-on-12, whatever the crazy situation is they could throw him into. Plus, Kurt Angle, versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I don't know if we thought we'd ever see that. That'll be fun. Anyone else on Team SmackDown, Kurt's already faced them, right? He's already worked Randy. He's worked Shane. He's worked John. He's worked Bobby Roode and TNA, as we said. So, it'll be interesting to see. But, again, the initial invasion is what threw me for a loop. Because, again, man, you cannot have heels acting like baby faces. Babyfaces acting like heels. And if you need further proof of that, just look right now at the heel turn that Sami Zayn had at Hell in a Cell when he saved his former best friend Kevin Owens from attack by Shane McMahon off the top of the cell. Right? Now all of a sudden you've got Sami and Kevin acting like, they've been BFFs the whole time and nothing's ever changed. That Owens didn't destroy him in NXT and then tried to end his career on the main roster and all this other nonsense. By the way, that column's coming out soon as well. that, Sami Zayn can't prosper without Kevin Owens, and it's the God's truth. But now you got Zayn Owens on SmackDown berating Shane for the vicious attack. And fans are kind of like, yeah, they got a point here. This company loves to blur the lines. And it makes for an interesting story. It gets people talking. It's not your typical paint by numbers, good guy versus bad guy. I understand. I get it. I know what they're going for. Again, not an idiot over here, at least not about this. I understand what the premise is. But to me, in my opinion, you are muddying the waters of who is who and who is supposed to be doing what. And maybe that's just splitting hairs on my part. Because again, the world is not, the world is not black and white. There's not always evil versus good. There's shades of gray. And they want that in wrestling as well. At least that company does. But I think at the end of the day, you just do nothing but divide the audience. Now Samoa Joe is teaming up with Rollins and Ambrose as the Shield. And so is Triple H, of all people. By the way, I ranted on that recently as well in a column. I'm telling you, man, when I get something stuck in my craw, I have to go write about it. Who needs the Shield? WWE has crushed group's momentum ahead of Survivor Series, which is 125% accurate. And if you don't believe that, go read the call from November 7th on Bleacher Report. You'll read all about it. Because it's 100% true, man. 100%. It wasn't Reigns' fault that he went down, by the way. Illness has happened. Sickness has happened. It's part of life. It's one of those things. But you don't put Kurt Angle with him. You certainly don't put Samoa Joe with him. And why in the world would you put Triple H with him? It doesn't make any sense, man. But that's sort of the state that both programs are in right now. Now there's all this speculation about Survivor Series, about who's going to do what to who, what the best match on the card is going to be. That's the case for every pay-per-view, obviously. The women's match, in my opinion, is a bit of a mess. Not that I don't like every woman in the ring. I do. I like some better than others, to be honest with you. Nia Jax is back, and we all sort of heard first she left, and it was like, no, she just wanted a break. And then she was back in like a week or whatever it was. Asuka, who looks like she's ready to kill everybody in her path for no good reason. And I started thinking about it. I watched her last match on Raw where she, squashed a jobber. And I was thinking, would we be this hard on her if she were a man? And the answer is, yeah, we would have, because she'd be Ryback. You see what I'm saying? And yeah, man, people were hard on Ryback. So, to me, it's an odd situation. On the other side, you got Carmella with that freaking briefcase. It looks like she's never going to cash the thing in. I don't know. To me, again, it's a mess. The whole thing's a mess, and I don't get where they're coming from on that. I think it'll be a fun match to watch. Don't misunderstand me, but if you needed another reason or another example how the Shield have been busted up and broken down to nothing, basically nothing, Rollins and Ambrose dropped the tag team belts. What? What? Now it's the Usos versus the Bar, which, don't get me wrong, it's going to be a good match. It's going to be a really good match. But it's not what it would have been had the Usos were Rollins and Ambrose. I'm just saying. But, it's going to be, the match will be fine. It's just, again, it's a head scratcher. What's going on? Champion versus champion, Alexa Bliss versus Natalya. You got the SmackDown Women's Champion with, that creepy grin, smirk on her face. That thing she does with the dimples and all. I don't know what that is. She's supposed to be a heel. Why are you smiling? Alexa Bliss, you're supposed to be a heel. Why are you smiling? Again, ladies, your heels act like it. Baron Corbin, who's a heel, check out his photo on WWE.com. He looks mad. He should. He's a heel. And versus The Miz and the United States Championship on one side and Intercontinental Championship on the other. Enzo Amore defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Kalisto. Enzo never looked better in his entire career. Who knew the guy would look this good in the Cruiserweight division? He's killing it, man. He's flat out killing it. So the Survivor Series card is shaping up. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be an interesting show, as always. But let's talk about the main event. Don't forget the main event. What's the main event? Brock Lesnar versus Jinder Mahal. AJ Styles. How you like them apples? Jinder, right? Don't hinder Jinder. Jinder's been hindered, folks. He dropped the WWE Championship to the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. I wrote this column too, by the way. I'm nothing but a plug machine today. I'm just a plug machine. Pros and cons of Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles at Survivor Series 2017. Written on November 5th in the year of our Lord 2017. So go check that column out as well. I would greatly appreciate it. The pros, it's easy. Why not have this match? It's a much better match than Mahal versus Brock. You have to believe that if Brock had his choice, of course, I think Brock just wants the paycheck. Doesn't make him a bad guy, but if it were me, I'd want the paycheck too. You can't blame him for wanting to work the better talent. And Brock Lesnar versus AJ Styles is one of those matches that you just never thought you would ever see. Styles has great matches with everyone he's ever been in the ring with. He takes great talents and elevates the greatness to near perfection. He takes mediocre talents and elevates them to greatness. He can do everything, which is it's the hallmark of a true champion, of a true great worker, is that he elevates the guys he's in the ring with. Here's the problem. Brock's winning this match. Sorry to burst your bubble. I think it would take something extremely major for Styles to pin him, for Styles to pin Brock Lesnar. I just don't know that I see it happening. I mean, Brock is indestructible, and the only exception to the rule has been Goldberg. And who won that feud? Brock won, because Brock wins every feud. Brock wins the majority of his matches. Brock wins every feud. So what do you got left? What do you got left for me? Nothing. Okay? So it's been obvious to me and a lot of other people out there that they've been setting up Brock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 34 in 2018, where Roman pins him clean, and then Brock moves on to the next thing in his life. Whether it's UFC, whether it's, I don't know, maybe he'll try football again. I'm just playing. But I don't know, man. But I don't see Brock going all the way through 2018. And maybe I'm dead wrong, and maybe I'll be proven wrong when next year gets here, but I just don't know if I see it. So your Survivor Series card, as we said, is being laid out. It's got some very interesting matches. It's got a dream match for what should be the main event, Styles versus Lesnar. But having said all of this, where do you stand? Because there's some diehard SmackDown fans out there. For just as many people who sit back and complain about the blue brand, there's just many people that love the blue brand. And I don't know, to be honest with you, it's always felt as though SmackDown Live has been sort of the underdog. And I know it's the underdog from the company's perspective, because they always position Monday Night Raw as the flagship program. They remind you constantly it's the flagship program. And that's how they want it. And I get that. I totally get that. But at the same time, I had to sit back and wonder, how does the company look at it right now? Have they always looked at it as being the little brother? When you hear guys like Bruce Pritchard talk, the answer is absolutely yes. SmackDown was the little brother of Monday Night Raw. But I think maybe that's why people gravitate toward the blue brand, don't you? Where the feeling is like, okay, but it's the underdog show. That makes me love it even more. That makes me want to watch it even more. SmackDown's been known as the wrestlers program, while the red brand, Monday Night Raw, is the talkers program. That's where you're cutting promos, and on SmackDown, you're wrestling the matches. That's been the reputation the blue brand has had for a long time. And, ratings notwithstanding, whatever they may be on any given week, the obvious comparison has been one show's on the mic, one show's in the ring. So how are we feeling about that now? Because I think with that being the case, SmackDown Live is always going to have this sort of groundswell of support from people who are like, I love this show. Shinsuke's on here, and Bobby Roode's on here, and Dolph Ziggler, for as much as his character has been, sort of cheapened over the years and busted down to nothing and elevated to the heights and dragged right back down kicking and screaming again. He's a fine worker. He really is. Great hand. AJ Styles, for crying out loud. See? Randy Orton. Much as people talk about Randy Orton, he's a veteran, whatever, he is, but dude, he's still a good mechanic in the ring. And I don't say the word mechanic disparagingly, and I don't say it to rip on him at all. I think Randy has the ability to turn in a fine match with whoever he's working, but I think he needs to show up, or he needs to want to show up when said match happens. Because I think when you're at the point that Randy's at in his career right now, you can maybe skate through a feud or two or a match or two and a good bulk of the wrestling audience would not even notice the difference. But those of us who analyze and overanalyze, critique and overcritique, and just speculate and, put under the eye microscope every night of our lives, are going to dissect it from top to bottom. That's kind of what we do, okay? And we can see the holes that happen in Orton's game from time to time. But SmackDown, again, considering the wrestling show. Now, you got to think when major returns happen, when big pops happen, you're looking at looking at Monday Night Raw. Goldberg didn't come back on SmackDown, right? Came back on Raw. And it's just, I don't know. There's always going to be that notion. Even though SmackDown is live now, I think that the idea that anything can happen is followed with a star. Anything can happen in WWE, especially on Monday Night Raw. I think that's sort of where the company's always been from the very beginning. But when you have Raw versus SmackDown, I'm not just talking about Survivor Series. I'm talking about, the way people view it. What does, Raw have that SmackDown doesn't have? Well, Raw has Stephanie McMahon, my God in heaven. If you can stand that little diatribe for 20 minutes at a time on the mic where she's growling and snarling and trying her best to do the best impression of her father that she can. Stephanie gets credit. In my opinion, it's undue credit. It's credit that she doesn't deserve. Maybe I'm being too hard on her. I don't know. I've never been a Stephanie McMahon fan. I think it's a hard sell, and I think she tries too freaking hard, and she struggles with, putting together what she considers to be her character and her real personality. Just go to Twitter. She'll be the first one to tell you she's just playing a bad guy on TV. That's what she does. And she has to tell all of us all the time. So when she popped back up on Raw to give Kurt Angle down the road about the SmackDown invasion, the first thing out of my mouth was, oh, God, here we go again. And I was right, man. One of the superstars from SmackDown, Chris Jericho, and, well, SmackDown and or Raw, considering, I guess, based upon the time period that you're talking about. Chris Jericho going to face Kenny Omega. It's a bit off topic, but Kenny Omega in Wrestle Kingdom 12, I think is the number. And if you're a New Japan fan, if you follow New Japan like I do, then you are well versed in their events. You understand that Wrestle Kingdom is their WrestleMania. And, makes perfect sense. But Jericho versus Omega is another thing altogether. Do you know what I mean? And you have to know that Vince McMahon said yes to Jericho doing this. I have to believe with the I guess you could call it heat that WWE has had with New Japan in terms of the Bullet Club stuff and all that, the Too Sweet and all that crap. That, Jericho would have had to have went to Vince and say, I want to do this. Is it cool with you? And then, Jericho's a smart guy, smart businessman. That's what you're supposed to do. It's not like he couldn't have done it had Vince said no, but you don't want to burn bridges, right? And Jericho's a smart guy. The match it doesn't need to happen. It's not like a lifelong dream match. It's the dream match of the next 5 minutes. Do you know what I'm saying? That's kind of where it's at, because although guys like us, people like you and me, if you follow New Japan over the years, we already knew Finn Balor as Prince Devitt. We already knew Kenny Omega before Kenny Omega was even a heavyweight. And, we recognize good talent. We see it. But I wasn't sitting back saying Kenny Omega versus Chris Jericho. I don't think anybody was. But because he's hot now people are talking about it. And that's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that at all. But look what's happening. Jericho is a big gun for WWE, in my opinion. I think they're missing him right now. But he's going to go do this match with Kenny Omega. Not that it's the end of the world, but it just kind of brought it up, for me in my head. So we talk about stuff sort of on the fly, and sometimes we save it for the end of the program. And sometimes we just piece it together when I have the column, the shows that have and stuff following the title. That's not one of these. This is Raw versus SmackDown. So I thought I'd just insert it where I could. So there you go. Got to get in where you can, man. Got to do what you can, right? Got to record the show. Got to do this. Let's face it, talking about New Japan and watching other companies, for a lot of pro wrestling fans, there's only WWE. And I know a lot of you out there who don't feel that way, hate that. I don't like it to a certain degree too. But there's no sense getting upset about it because it is what it is. WWE is the king. They're the top dog of the business. Probably always will be, barring some craziness that could happen in terms of, slowing them down. I don't know who could slow them down. WCW had the best opportunity in the world to end them, and they couldn't get the job done. So WWE is the top dog for a lot of people out there. So there's only Raw versus SmackDown. They know NXT. I'm sure they watch it. I'm sure they have the network, watch the old stuff, but they're probably watching old WWF stuff, a lot of them. But it's Raw versus SmackDown, and the two major shows. So which one's your favorite? Which one do you like the most? I'm often asked, who's your favorite wrestler? And it's a cop-out answer, but my answer was always, I don't know if I have a favorite wrestler. If you ask me who I enjoy watching the most, I could tell you Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, CM Punk, The Rock and Roll Express. I know I threw Punk in there. It's an odd fit or whatever. Daniel Bryan. Because I appreciate those guys in the ring. Wahoo McDaniel, the Horsemen, Magnum TA. I appreciate their work that they put in. And, if I had to pick my favorite right now, it'd have to be Kazuchika Okada in New Japan. It's the best in the world, in my opinion. But I don't know if I have a favorite. Like I said, I just have guys that I enjoy watching in the ring. Maybe that's the definition of favorite. I don't know. But it's weird for me to kind of answer that question. I don't really have a favorite program. I can tell you that I get tired of a couple of things. I can't tell you what I get upset about. You want to hear about what ticks me off? Well, you come to the right place. No, I'm kidding. Not really. What I've noticed is that people watch Raw and complain the whole time. This is 3 hours. This is too long. Well, this is too long. This is stupid. Remember that? This is stupid. So, let me get this straight. You're going to watch all 3 hours. You're going to complain the whole time. Yet you're still watching. If you hate it that much, turn it off. Don't DVR it. Don't watch it again. It's okay to be upset. I'm not saying you got to walk away. I'm not one of those guys that says, hey, if you don't like it, get lost. But you have the power to control it. The remote's in your hand. Hit the channel button. Switch it. Because if you choose not to, and all you want to do is bellyache the whole time, I just sort of zip past your tweet as if you're not even talking. And when I get questioned on Twitter, I'm like, Tom, isn't Monday Night Raw just too long? 3 hours is too long. Let me explain something to you guys out there. And you know this. My audience is smart. You folks already know this. But I feel like saying it. Might as well say it, right? There's a buttload of money coming into WWE for that 3rd hour program. Do you understand? Sponsorship, money. I mean, just to produce that hour of television. And they're supposed to just give that money back. They're supposed to say, no, thank you for that money. We just want to do 2 hours. It's the flagship program, right? I would argue that Raw needs to be 3 hours. Plus the fact that I enjoy as much WWE and as much pro wrestling content on my TV as I could possibly get. Do I get bored with the long promos? Yeah. Do I hate when Steph McMahon comes out and takes a big massive dump in the ring, calls it a great heel promo? It insults my intelligence. Yes, sir, it does. I can't stand that either. But again, I'm not one of these guys who sits back and debates whether or not 3 hours is good or bad. I don't care. I mean, well, SmackDown's better program time because it's only 2 hours. Okay. I've watched 1 hour wrestling programs that stink the place up, and a 2 hour program that stink the place up, and a 3 hour program that hits it out of the park. I don't know what your point is. Because it's a very subjective thing. What are you looking for when you watch an hour of pro wrestling? Not just from WWE, but from TNA, for whatever reason you're choosing to watch it. Ring of Honor, Lucha Underground, New Japan. What are you looking for? What is it that you're looking for? You're looking for a lot of talking? Do you don't care about talking? Do you like a mix of both wrestling and talking? Do you just want to see your favorite guy and then you're happy? Or your favorite female superstar and then you're happy? I mean, what is it that you're looking for? To me, it's a very subjective thing. And people can sit back and complain all day long. If the ratings held up, then how do you really sit back and say, well, this show sucked? By the same token, how many times have the ratings been great? And you're like, wow, that show is not very good. Why are the ratings so high? I mean, I don't know. You could spin it around the other way, of course. By the same token, why, were the ratings so terrible, but that match was awesome? I don't know. Like, it's a very subjective thing. It's all in your perception. What do you perceive to be the better show? There is no Raw versus SmackDown. You guys know that, right? This is all storyline. Now, you could talk about the talents on both shows being very competitive with each other and wanting to put on the best program possible, and I get that, and that makes perfect sense. I don't know the level of competition that exists today. I know at one time it was huge, when Kurt Angle was on SmackDown with Edge and Eddie Guerrero, and then on Raw you had, the other team on Raw. I'm trying to think of who was on Raw at that time. You can't say Cena, but Triple H and, Chris Jericho. I mean, then you could say, well, the competitive juices were flowing. It was really Team A versus Team A.2, maybe not Team B. You see what I mean? Two A teams facing each other. But I don't know the level of competition that exists today between these talents, between both locker rooms. But the whole concept of Raw versus SmackDown is just a concept. It's just an angle. It's something to sell a pay-per-view. It's something to sell video games. It's something to sell TV shows to you. The whole purpose of WWE is to make money. You guys know that too, right? I mean, WWE doesn't exist to pay respect to the business, pay respect to the history of professional wrestling, because the history of professional wrestling is a bunch of dudes in a wrestling ring trying to convince you they don't like each other so they can take your money. So you'll pay to see them trying to kill each other, supposedly, in matches that are supposedly supposed to be competitive but truly aren't. They're actually, predetermined beforehand. It's a business. You're there to make money. And as much as I hate NBA players talking about this is a business, I understand that. Well, they're right. It is a business, just like pro wrestling. Well, it's called the business, folks. You see what I'm saying? But the whole concept of Raw versus SmackDown is just to sell tickets. That's what this is. And they can talk about on a week-to-week basis and compare ratings, compare what's going on other channels, Monday Night Football, all this other stuff. I get it. Playoffs and all that. How does it compare? How did SmackDown do against baseball? How did Raw do against football? Whatever. I understand where it's coming from. But again, you have to understand, this is all being done to sell tickets to get you to come see the shows. That's the point of the whole thing. So it's a very subjective idea. It's a very subjective opinion. What do you feel is the best? Which one's the best program? Do you care about which program's the better program? Honestly, does it matter to you at all? Only you can answer these questions, by the way. I can't. I got nothing for you. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a favorite. I enjoy watching. I watch every Raw. I watch every SmackDown. I watch everything in between. NXT, pay-per-views, the network. You name it, I consume it. That's what I am. I'm a consumer of the product. I'm their fan base. I'm their customer. That's what I am. And I'd like to see the best pro wrestling on TV every time my TV's on. Sometimes I get that. Sometimes I don't. But to be quite honest with you, my job as a pro wrestling analyst is to analyze. It's to sit back and digest the product and give you my opinion on what I just saw. And I speculate on what's going to happen in the future, and I tell you what I think happened that night, what I think is going to happen tomorrow. That's what I do. But as far as having a favorite, I don't think I have one, to be honest with you. It's fun to watch. That's all I know. It's a very interesting time for WWE right now because, again, and I keep going back to the heel versus babyface dynamic and how that company's done everything they can. They killed kayfabe. Kayfabe's dead. Because in the midst of all this Raw versus SmackDown nonsense, the WWE superstars are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram chumming up to each other as if it never happened. And, you got Braun Strowman in an ugly Christmas sweater on WWE.com. And I'm like, what? So, maybe I shouldn't get too wrapped up in the particulars of it, but I can't help myself because I totally do all the time. It makes me crazy. And I can't begin to tell you how crazy it makes me because kayfabe, as I said, is dead. And this company has done everything in their power to kill the heel and babyface dynamic. A lot of folks in WWE upper management, by the way, believe that it's an outdated concept. That, again, there's shades of gray, and there should be shades of gray. That, listen, if we played a straight heel and babyface, you're just going to turn him anyway. You're going to hate Roman anyhow, right? You're going to cheer The Miz anyway. Doesn't matter. You're going to do what you're going to do. Yes, but don't you guys understand? Doesn't that company understand that you are fueling the fire? Easy for me to say. You are fueling the fire. You are laying the groundwork for who people should love or hate. And I don't know how this lowly pro wrestling writer in North Carolina, sees this, but no one else does. And if they do, they're not talking about it because they waste their breath talking about it. Maybe that's it, right? But pro wrestling company, especially WWE, needs to steer the fans where they want them to go. The fans should not steer the company. Now, That is another shade of gray in and of itself, because if that were the case, then Steve Austin would always have been the ringmaster and would have always floundered. It would never become Stone Cold. I get that. I mean, the crowd wanted him, and they wanted him like crazy, and they wanted him to be babyface, and WWE said, fine, turn him face. Of course, the crowd wanted John to be heel, and they didn't turn John. The crowd wants Roman to be heel, and they're not going to turn Roman. So I think WWE loves the idea that the crowd dictates where they go when it suits their needs, when it suits, when it suits their agenda, when it suits the narrative. That's what WWE will do when it suits them. But when it doesn't, they will do what they want to do. They will go in the direction they want to go in, and that's what we see. And I would argue, again, a pro wrestling company should control the audience and steer the audience in the direction it would like to go. WWE just tends to throw a whole bunch of shiny stuff in the ring and say, boom, there it is. What do you guys think? Anybody? And then listen for the reaction. That's what they do. And I can't argue with that. It's a time-honored and it's a time-proven a tradition in that company. They've been doing it for years, man. And they're probably always going to do it. But to me, the lines have just blurred so much, it's nearly unrecognizable at this point. The New Day should never attack anyone, without it being a case of self-defense. The New Day should never do that. I'm not saying they got to be squeaky clean, but that's not who they are. Just like it's not Baron Corbin's character to blindly follow the son of Vince McMahon who's telling him what to do. That doesn't make any sense. It never has. It doesn't make any sense for Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose to fully trust the guy that tried to ruin both their careers in addition to their best friend Roman's career. It doesn't make any sense, see? But yet that's what WWE pushes. They want nonsense. And you and I watch the nonsense, and we hate the nonsense, but yet we keep coming back for the same nonsense. So who's in the wrong here? Who's in the wrong, man? But again, very odd time in that company right now, in my estimation. And it feels like a lot of things they do are just kind of thrown together because they didn't have a plan B. It's hard to know what to do when your top guy gets hurt or gets put on the shelf because everything changes. And it has. Everything changes. When Roman went on the shelf, Seth and Dean lost the championship belts. They're not even in the 5-on-5 match at Survivor Series, and it should have been the Shield with two other guys by all rights because they are indeed so dominant. But that didn't happen. What if it had been the Shield, Kurt Angle, and Braun Strowman? That would have been an odd pairing. Or the Shield, Finn Balor, and Samoa Joe. That would have been another odd pairing. But to me, in my opinion, you put your best guys out there for a match of this magnitude, especially when you've got the quote-unquote Raw versus SmackDown dynamic happening. But they're not involved. And so, again, it goes back to, I guess it really does go back to what do you enjoy watching the most? Which one does it for you? I can tell you that I've been watching SmackDown since its debut. And it was The Rock show. It was called SmackDown, for crying out loud. This is The Rock show. This is SmackDown. But yet, where's he always come back to when he comes back? Raw. Isn't that funny? Weird. But, wouldn't that have been a great addition to Team SmackDown? Can you imagine that? Not going to happen. I get it. He's a Hollywood star. Right? Yeah. But, I watched all the way back to that point, and I've seen the ups and downs of that show. And, it's come a long way. As has Monday Night Raw. But I think that you have a lot of fans out there who watch Raw and don't watch SmackDown. Because they get their dose of the flagship, and then they move on with their life the rest of the week. They probably don't even have the network. You get other folks who are just flipping the channels. Yeah, I've seen that wrestling on last night. Where's Ric Flair at? That's terrible, right? By the way, did Ric Flair make a turnaround or what? I mean, awesome. The Nature Boy is back on his feet. Live in a living color, better than ever before. Styling and profiling as only he can. Awesome. The 30 for 30 is out. I challenge you to watch it. I say challenge because, in my opinion, it could have been better. I didn't dislike it, but I took exception with a few things that were there. Just my own personal taste and opinion, I guess you could say. But it's worth your time. Check it out. But yeah, great to see Rick back on his feet again. Hopefully he'll be on WWE programming sooner rather than later. Well, there again, speaking about Rick, talk about a guy who, by all rights was reinvented in WWE. And Monday Night Raw was a huge part of that. Monday Night Raw, because again, all eyes were on Monday Night Raw, honestly, right? So would Rick have had the same, revival of sorts if he had been featured primarily just on SmackDown? I don't think so. Now, that's just me talking. Would Evolution have just been on SmackDown, or would it have been a Monday Night Raw concept? So, you got to think about that stuff, man. And the company leans more toward the red brand. I think we all know that by now. That's just something they do. So when you have the biggest company, the biggest pro wrestling company in the business already sort of, and again, this is talking about guiding the audience into where you want them to go. They constantly remind you that Raw is a flagship program. They constantly tell you that anything can happen. They constantly tell you about the number of episodes Raw's put on the air and how Raw's beat all these other legendary TV shows and it's still going each and every week. And, Raw's number one. After all these years of being told that stuff, then you're going to eventually believe it yourself. And if you don't believe it, you're going to be inclined to believe it. And that's directing the audience where you want them to go. So after all of that stuff, and I don't want to call it brainwashing because I don't think that's what it is, but after all of that, how could anyone look at SmackDown and say SmackDown's the A show? It doesn't matter what talent's on there. That's just me talking. But it doesn't make any sense. You see that? But anyway, I keep going back to the point of it's all in what you think. What do you like the best? I mean, Raw has its upticks. SmackDown has its upticks. They both have their downsides as well. But Survivor Series, in my opinion, needs to be about a lot more than just two shows going at it in the ring. It needs to be about more than just Raw getting the last laugh, which I think Team Raw is going to win. Just my opinion. I think it's the wrong move. But, at the end of the day, no one's gonna remember, honestly. Do you remember who won the last time this happened last year? Remember last year they said this is the only time you're going to see this, and here we are again this year. Team Raw versus Team SmackDown Live. Whatever, man. But in my opinion, the way they've patterned this thing is that, and the way it feels that Raw's going to come out on top, I don't think that's the right move. But I think something needs to happen besides just a 3 count. It needs to happen besides just, there's the last survivor and he's a dude from SmackDown. I think it needs to be something more. This invasion thing was a very big deal. I mean, the last time we saw something like this was the Shield, and then before that, the Nexus. It needs to be, there needs to be lasting repercussions from this. WWE oftentimes embarks on a storyline that has all this gravitas about it, and this huge big fight feel, and it's epic, it's main event, it's prime time, and then there's no payoff, or the payoff that happens is not all that great. And you're sitting back thinking, wow, all that for this? This sucks. Right? I don't want to see that happen this time. I think there needs to be something major come out of Survivor Series. I don't know what that major thing's going to be. Whether it's, one guy betrays one team and joins the other show. Maybe that's going to be it. Maybe Jason Jordan is a mole. He's going to betray Team Raw. I don't have any idea what's going to happen. But I'll tell you this. If it ends with just, there he is, folks. Jason Jordan's the sole survivor. All right, Team Raw won. Yay, we'll see you next week. To me, I don't see the point of that. There needs to be something else happening here. If there's not anything else happening here, then why are we going to waste our time watching? WWE has the best opportunity of any pro wrestling company in the business today of beginning a story, having a middle to it, and having an ending, and bringing you back each and every week for another chapter in that story. Name another company that can do that consistently. You say TNA, fine. You say Ring of Honor, fine. But I'm talking about worldwide stage, worldwide exposure, all over the globe. New Japan, yes, but New Japan focuses on the ring instead of the storyline. The storyline's there, but those guys are telling the story between the ropes. So WWE has a golden opportunity to do what no other pro wrestling company can do in 2017, and that's to present an exciting chapter and to take their characters and fully flesh them out. But most of the time, not most of the time, a lot of the times I should say, what we see are characters that have been underdeveloped, storylines that have no end, angles that are left dangling in midair, and you're like, what just happened? Who lost to who? Why? So instead of just doing all this work, the invasion, the fighting back, the champion versus champion, New Day acting out of character. Baron Corbin, all these other guys acting out of character. Daniel Bryan getting attacked in the dark. Because we can't see Daniel getting attacked because Daniel's not cleared to compete. You get that, right? So instead of having all that just to, we just wanted you to watch Survivor Series. Tomorrow on Raw, it's going to be back to normal. I don't need that. I need Raw to open up with Shane McMahon and him standing there saying, and hey, how about that? How about Kurt and Shane put the shows on the table and say whoever's team wins, that guy gets both programs. Can you imagine seeing Kurt Angle on Raw and SmackDown? I'm just throwing it out there, man. I think it would be an awesome deal. To me, that's a nice twist. So, listen, if this happens, you're going to know that WWE's listening to this podcast. Well, why wouldn't they listen to this podcast? But there's a lot more to talk about here, man. Survivor Series is still, it's a week away at this point and some change. And there should be some other bouts announced. I don't know how many, but the card's going to be pretty hefty. And a lot of talent on this card. May not be a lot of matches. There's going to be a lot of talent, man. It's going to be worth watching. And I'm very interested to see what's going to happen. Again, I want something nice at the end. I want a nice bow on the end of it. I want it to be exciting, to be dramatic, to be action packed, not too over the top. I don't want to get the guys to get hurt or anything. We always, hope for the best and want to see all the guys and gals be safe in the ring, of course, obviously, and come out without a scratch. So we say the same thing about this show in particular, but I want some consequences. I want some repercussions coming out of Survivor Series. I expect them. Anything less, I'm going to be bored or I'm going to be upset, frustrated. I'm still going to watch. I already told you this. I'm not going to split, right? It has to be something pretty heinous for me to take a walk. Haha, right? But at the same time, I just have to hope for something big to happen at the end that has that you can feel the effects of it for weeks, months, maybe even a year, maybe even leading up to WrestleMania 34. That'd be nice too, right? It's not too early, folks. I mean, WrestleMania season to me starts in November. To me, WrestleMania season always started when The Undertaker came back, whether it was at a house show or on Raw or SmackDown. That's when WrestleMania season. That's when the road to WrestleMania starts. They talk about the Royal Rumble all day long, and I get that, I understand it. But to me, the real road to WrestleMania begins when Undertaker comes back. He's confirmed for the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. He's confirmed. Shawn Michaels is confirmed, which we kind of knew that was going to happen. So you've got all these, Hall of Fame talents coming back. And what is Taker going to do? I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. But the 25th anniversary edition of Monday Night Raw. Talk about Raw versus SmackDown. It's going to be a big event. You're going to have to check it out, man. It's going to be Barclays Center. WWE loves the Barclays Center, man. Roman's being advertised for it. Hopefully he'll be back and healthy by that time. And here's the kicker. It's on January 22nd. This is going to be a couple months. Yeah, about 2 months after, Survivor Series. Superstars from both programs are going to be there. So you know what? Let's see some fireworks. I want some fireworks for Survivor Series leading straight into January for the 25th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. January 22nd, 2018, USA Network. Man, it's gonna be big, dude. It's gonna be big. Taker, Shawn, Nash. I'm sure Hall will be there. You can't have a Raw reunion thing or anniversary without Hall and Nash, right? Stone Cold Steve Austin has got to be there. So, what do you think, man? What's your opinion? Where are you coming down on this topic from? As I said, there's a lot more to talk about. We could have talked about this for 2 hours on the show. But give me some input, man. Give me what you think. Hit me up. Hit us up here on the program. Boink Studios at yahoo.com. Go to boinkstudios.com to check out the latest from yours truly. Check us out on Facebook. We're there as well. Go to Twitter. Follow us. We'll follow you right back. I'm taking it home, can you tell? So that's it for us, man. It's going to be an interesting few weeks. The end of the year for WWE is always, to me, is a make or break time for the company because WrestleMania can't fix everything in one night, and hopefully WrestleMania can also not ruin everything in one night. It's the months leading up to the event that are the most important time, in my opinion, for that company. So it's going to be an interesting time to see what happens here. Listen, if we don't talk before Thanksgiving gets here, we at Boink Studios want to wish you and yours a great and happy Thanksgiving. Eat some turkey, yo. Eat that turkey, man, because I'm going to. Trust me on that. And we're definitely going to talk to you before Christmas gets here. So, listen, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for hanging out with us. Be safe out there. We appreciate your business as always. And we will see you next time on Tom Clark's Main Event.